Welcome to Porch Play Chat, sponsored by the American Association for Promoting the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA USA. IPA USA is the USA affiliate of the International Play Association. And as part of our efforts to promote play, we've introduced Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find all the Porch Play Chats, and there's more than 160 of them, on our website at ipausa.org. Click on that top right-hand corner and be a friend on our Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And magically, every Monday, a new Porch Play Chat will appear in your feed. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch is Whitney Woodward. Hi.
Hi, Deb. I'm so glad to see you, one porch to another.
I know. Whitney's at the lake, and I'm very jealous right now. Whitney has a master's in education with a concentration in early childhood education, and she received her leadership endorsement from Georgia State University. She's a teacher and administrator at a wonderful school, the Westminster Schools, which is an independent K-12 school in Atlanta. She was the fourth grade teacher where she instituted what she's going to talk to us about in 2020. And Whitney has done a town hall on Yes, You Can Play in the fourth grade. So today she's going to talk to us about how can we bring more play into the elementary school environment. And so she's really done this. And so Whitney, I can't wait to hear what you're going to share with us.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Deb. And for this time being on a real porch, which is always very nice.
And so, is that like a tree house in the back, the wooden structure that's right there?
No, that is a deck. So I'm in a screened-in porch right now. I'm by one of North Georgia's many beautiful lakes. So if you hear boats or children in the background, it is summer right now. I'm not sure when this will be posted on the website, but it is currently July, and I'm off school. So excuse my makeupless, greasy hair and a ponytail. I was told it was a porch play chat, so I'm living it.
You're on the porch.
On the porch. But I'm very excited to be here because, as Deb, you said, when I changed jobs, I was the executive director of a preschool and a daycare and an after school for a long time. Before that, I worked in public school for about a decade, but then I switched. I made the move in 2020 to teaching at an independent school, and I was teaching fourth grade for a couple of years, and now I'm back in administration. I'm the director of teaching and learning for kindergarten, first and second grades. But when I was a fourth grade teacher and I started, it was 2020, and we were in person starting in August, fully masked, distant. My school did just a Herculean job of putting safe practices in place to make sure we could be in person while being safe. I mean, weekly testing, you name it, all these things that I have tried so hard to expunge from my brain because none of us really want to remember what we went through. But at the time I was a new kid, but I'd been with IPA for years before that. Deb is one of my favorite people of all time, for those of you watching. In case you didn't already know, I am a card-carrying member of her fan club. But inspired by my friends at IPA, I went to my administration at the time, and we were in the thick of it. Everyone's exhausted, kids, parents, adults, everyone's. And just had that bee in my bonnet. And I asked my school administration, I said, hey, can we have a day of play this year? And I was expecting, no's, because I'm an asker. If you don't know, you definitely know if you don't ask, basically. But to my surprise, they said yes. And I was so excited. But the first year, because of what we're going through, it looked a little bit different. So the way that we made it work that first year was, normally we had a field day. Most schools have a field day, and it's heavily run by parent volunteers. We couldn't have parents come to school because of COVID restrictions. So we were able to kind of make field day work and day of play work. So we called it field day of play that first day, but it was structured in a way a field day is structured. And we had some areas for, and I know I'm going to say the dirty word, purposeful play. So it was, it wasn't a full free choice play day, but hey, foot was in the door. So the kids had a ton of fun. Teachers had a ton of fun, and it was a great springboard into what could happen next. So then we looked at kind of what day of play could look at. I'll just fast forward to this past year where we were able to have an independent day of play. There were no specials that day. It was structured around play. But in getting there, I really had to be thoughtful about how I was going to make this work, because we are an academically rigorous school, and that is important to our teachers. It's important to our parents. It's important to administration. It's important to the children too. But of course, with the age we work with, we need to have play. It's what they need. I mean, I'm not going to go into the reasons. Anybody watching this recording is obviously drinking the Kool-Aid. So for this most recent day of play, we scheduled it for the Friday before Labor Day. And in Atlanta, Georgia, it is still very hot. So we have 6th grade levels, kindergarten, first through, all the way through 5th, about 450 children, and lots of enthusiasm. And we had a group of 8 teachers go to the U.S. Play Coalition conference in Clemson. So where Stuart Brown was. So we kind of used that as a springboard into formatting what our recent day of play looked like. So we took Stuart Brown's idea of what kind of player are you? Are you a collector? Are you a competitor? Are you, so we had those 8 play personalities laid out and set out different stations. So that way we could say, this station is for our competitors, but anybody can enjoy it. Even if that's not your favorite way to play, this is one that will bring out the competitor in you. This is one for our collectors. This is one for our storytellers, to kind of give it a little bit more structure. And it wasn't just for the children, it was for the adults too, because if you just unleash 450 kids, there's a fine line between free choice play and chaos, right? So this was our way of trying to kind of format things. But again, with the heat, because that's a very real factor in this, we had to make sure we had time alternating between outdoor and indoor time, just to make sure it was enjoyable. Because 100 degrees, 100% humidity it's a lot for a full day. So that kind of tells you a little bit about how the day was structured. I'm happy to go into more detail onto any of it. But then the other piece that we did that we're still working on is when we asked our special area teachers where they saw themselves. We asked our adults, what kind of player are you? Are you more of a collector? Are you, what do you enjoy? Are you a, kinesthetic player? And it was great actually, because I found out one of our PE teachers has his master's in kinesthesiology. So I'm like, let's use your knowledge. So we reached out to our adults first. So so I'm kind of going backwards. We did our assembly for our faculty and staff on what this day was going to look like. And that's when we explained these types of players and said, what kind of player are you and how do you want to engage in that day? And then we found ways for everyone to get involved in it. So that way, when the children came in, we had our assembly at the beginning of day of play to talk about what kind of player are the children. There was a common language for the adults and children to talk together about play. And we were really able to have those meaningful conversations about play. And then of course, reflection at the end of the day. The reflection still, we had some teachers who told us how powerful it was, how, because we had it at the beginning of the year, we start school early in Georgia. We always start school in the second or third week of August. So we had children in the classrooms for a little while, but the best feedback we got was our teachers learning about our students and who they are, which was amazing. But then we had, on the flip side, we had some other teachers, and it was an anonymous survey. And of course, we value that anonymity so people can speak freely with and allow themselves to speak with a certain amount of vulnerability. We had some folks say it was a fun day. Again, a fun day. I don't see the point. Which, I appreciate the honesty.
Right.
So, so taking all these pieces as we're planning again, our Schools Day of Play this coming year is going to be September 1st. Mark your calendars. If anybody wants to come, we're in Atlanta. But one piece that we're taking away from this time that is an idea that I got from our Glasgow conference, which was so wonderful. We could talk about that in just a minute too. Was making and one piece of information that we took with it was giving each teaching team a way to document what they're seeing their children do during this day of play, and hoping that that'll give it a little bit more teeth, giving a little bit more value for those educators that are still learning more about play or seeing play through this lens. Mm-hmm. So we're still growing with it. It's not, play is not something everyone's comfortable with. Outdoor play is something people are really not comfortable with. Right. So it's not for everyone, and we have to figure out how to maneuver that. So this, I'm still working with the teachers that I would travel to Glasgow with to figure out what this year's Day of Play theme, what it's going to look like, how we can structure it to allow time for free choice play, true free choice play within the confines of a school day. But we're still working on it. It's still a work in progress. We've got some ideas. We're playing around with the idea of messy play, so pray for us.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, so fun. I mean, my God, all you need is sprinklers or hoses.
We got lots of Georgia red clay.
There you go. Lots of red clay, oh my goodness. So I think what is heartening about this is that you baby stepped your way through during the COVID craziness. You said, here's what we can do now. And then what do we learn from that? And now 2021 was, what can we do based on what we learned before? And then 2022 was, what can we do based on what we learned before? And it seems like that planting the seed that you need a day of play. And I know on your town hall, you were talking about how you played in the 4th grade often, right?
Yes.
Gets teachers to see. I love that their feedback was, I really got to know more about each one of the children. But I also love the feedback that it was, I really don't understand why we're doing this. Yeah, it was fun. I really don't understand, because of the mindset of, we have to get them ready for life. We have to get them ready. We have to get them ready. And so this approach that you're taking in this year's, asking children to make observations or to take photos of what children are actually doing, I think is another step for them to see the value of what play does across all those domains of development and cognitive, physical, and social skills that we're always saying we need more of. So I think that's, even if they can have a focus where they're not doing every one of those domains, but maybe if they're the PE teacher, what physical development did you see happening? And the maybe the English teachers, what language development did you see happening? Whatever their choice is, but maybe they choose one particular area to focus on, and then they share out what they learned. As might be really valuable for them, so they can say, oh, I didn't know that they were doing that.
And one of the best station centers parts of this past year's the 2022 Day of Play we had was looking at the idea of storytelling and creation and play. So we looked at ways, how can we get our school librarians are so wonderful. Oh, I mean, they're just the most amazing people. So one of the areas of play we had was looking again at Stuart Brown's work with thinking of the storyteller and the creator. So we had our librarians read stories, and we had the children just draw what they envisioned in their mind. And it was some good feedback also from our children and our adults in the building saying, oh, I didn't realize this was a kind of play. And play doesn't always have to be robust and full body. It can be small and imaginative and personal. So it was a really nice way of kind of thinking about these different facets of all of us as players, which all of these conversations are so valuable in thinking and looking at our children in how they play. And also that that piece that I know a lot of us struggle with as educators and parents also, when you see a child playing, sometimes just let them play. Do not interrupt.
Yeah. Please don't interrupt them.
Don't interrupt the play.
You know, we always talk about, I loved how you called it the dirty word, the purposeful play.
Oh, yes. The hot topic.
Hot topic. Purposeful play is when the adult is in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Children's play is always purposeful, but it's the lens that you're looking through, right? I have this idea and I want to try it out. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try something else. Oh, that didn't work. Let me try something else. They always have a purpose. Now, the purpose may change 50 billion times during the time frame that they have to play. But I just remember as a child, I was out for 9 hours a day in South Texas, 104 degrees, 100% humidity, under the fig tree for shade, and drinking out of the garden hose. And for the
and you lived to tell the tale.
I did. And but I always had a plan when I went outside. I always say, oh, today I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. Now, that may never have happened because something else happened. But I think if we reframe that purposeful play from an adult's perspective is when they're guiding it.
Yes. This is where we want them to get to. Yes.
Yes. So we're gonna guide them and facilitate them to that point instead of recognizing the value of children planning. I mean, how many times have you found an adult who has no time management? And it's probably because they weren't able to manage their time when they were young children. They just don't have that skill because they weren't able to practice it and master it.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think helping adults see what the children are doing, and please don't say, what is your plan for the day? Please don't do that. Because they have a plan, but it may change 17 times before the end of the day. Maybe you could say, what did you enjoy most about what you did today, instead of what's your plan? And then
I think yeah, well, it goes so much back to, I feel like that idea of children finding their own agency, their own choice. You know, we look at babies, and the only thing that they have choice about is toileting and feeding. And you see the struggles there when they are not allowed to have those choices, or when things are being forced upon them. But as they get older, children need to have choice. They need to feel like they have agency over their actions, their bodies, their next activities, because we are creating people who will become adults. And these are skills that they absolutely have to have. And if we teach them in school that they have no choice and no control over what happens next, how are we preparing them for what comes next? Exactly. So there have to be these opportunities in school, like a day of play, where or opens time for play for children. And if they're old and don't think it's cool, we can call it something else, but we all know what it really is. But for them to have that time to make their own choices, to try things out. And the other piece too is when children do play together, and I know I'm preaching this choir, they allow themselves to be vulnerable in front of each other. And this vulnerability allows them to open themselves up in ways that they can take risks and make mistakes. And isn't this what we want for all of them anyway? This is something we say all the time at school. We want you to take risks. We want you to make mistakes, because that is how you learn. And so this is the entire goal. So with this opportunity for choice and mistake and risk, this is the door we're opening for them. This is the magic door that we want them to walk through and to leap through, to see that this is where the fun is. It's not about getting 100 on a test. It's about learning.
Yes. And about mastering those approaches to learning and those dispositions of learning that they're only going to get early. And then they use them forever. And so the piece about a child's agency, I think, is one that is maybe a new term to some. So if we think about children having agency or choice or power over what they're going to do first, second, third, what choices that they have to make outside, what choices they have to make, so sometimes I think we are afraid, and this is even before COVID, when, children were on computers and really lost their social skills, right? Because they were interacting with a machine, not really with other people. And so the answer to that is not to structure the playground recess. The answer to that is let them have time to make choices. And
that's the thing, is it takes time.
It does. You can't just snap your fingers and get them recovered from what they didn't have for so long. So, so I think it's all about recognizing where your staff is, recognizing what maybe your ultimate goal is, but not trying to do it all at once, and to baby step your way through it. So
and to figure out, your administration priorities and see how you can line it up.
Yes, blend them together, because it makes perfect sense that if all development is interdependent on every one of those other domains of development, we can't just focus on cognitive skills, right? If all development, and we know that children develop like this in those domains based on their experiences. If we recognize that they're not going to be as high developing in their cognitive skills as you might want them to be, if you're not allowing them to develop their physical skills, or not allowing them to develop their social and emotional skills. So if we just go back to development is interdependent and interrelated, sometimes that helps teachers recognize, oh, that's why, because maybe this child is really, really, really adept physically, but not so in gross motor physical development, but not so adept in fine motor physical development, or maybe not so adept in math skills or reading skills. If we recognize that we can't just focus on cognitive skills to catch them up, that we have to recognize that it's this balance of interdependency and interrelatedness across domains that we need to really focus on. It may help them see more value in what it is children are doing. And the other thing, so can you describe it, as we're getting ready to close out, but I really think people want to know what the choices were, right? So, and the other thing, if you have that PowerPoint about with Stuart Brown's what kind of a player are you? Or an article or information, send that to me so I can attach it to the
Absolutely. Yes, I will. I'm a big believer in that. One of the beauties of being in education is we get to be sharers and share everything. So I will happily forward on to you, Deb, so it can just be the PowerPoint that I shared with our faculty and staff. I'll send both of them, the one for the children and the one for the faculty and staff. If you want to take it apart, use it, absolutely, please. One player to another. So we had our 6 stations set up, and I apologize, I am at the lake and I don't have my notes with me.
That's okay, just remember what you can remember.
Of course. So again, we went between inside and outside. One thing that we have a group there, they're like our school's PTA, they purchased the large community playthings outdoor blocks for us that you can leave outside.
Nice. Ooh,
which is so great. And that was for the older kids too, for like the 2nd through 5th graders, which I love, because I feel like people give blocks to the little kids, we give blocks to the big kids. So they were new and they were introduced on the day of play. So we had those on one playground. On a big field, we did an activity with balloons, and this was the competitor game where you have to blow up the balloons and put them between you and the person in front of you, and they put a balloon in front of them and another person. So you have 10 people with balloons between them, and you have to race with them.
Oh my God, how
We
fun.
had super fun. Of course, bouncy houses, because bouncy houses are super fun.
Mhm.
We had a couple different ones. The storytelling one that I shared with y'all about, just a story being read and the children just would draw, or if they wanted to stop and just listen and formulate in their mind, that was it too. I mean, that was the nice thing, is we did try to open it up. And again, it's hard when you have groups with this many children, this many adults, this much space. But anyone who has feedback on ideas, we are a work in progress. So we would love to hear more. We had one of our where the children would just go back into their classrooms and they were given a huge tub of Legos or a huge tub of Kiva planks and just have some fun and build. How many is that?
That's a lot.
Um,
I mean, that's at least 5 already.
we've done, it wasn't this past year, but one of the activities we've done for children that they love from 5 to 11 years old is we just leave out huge boxes of yarn, and they do whatever they want on the playground. You want to tie it between 2 trees, great. You want to make a finger knit and just sit and make finger knit curtains off the monkey bars, fantastic. And then of course the question becomes, how do we clean it up? Our 3rd graders cleaned it all up with safety scissors, and I paid them in popsicles about a week later. So it's all, the kids are very capable. We can, if the problem, whenever you're planning something like this, there's always going to be the, oh, what do we do? Oh, this problem. Your kids are a resource. They want to be helpful. They, again, when we go back to choice and feeling confident and competent, that's something whenever I talk with parent groups, I say, we want your children to be confident and competent. Those are those 2 pieces. And this allows them to do that. They can play, they can have fun, but they also have that responsibility of, oh, I know I can clean it up afterwards. Or I know, if the 3rd grade's doing it, we can help them out. There are all ways for things to also be, without going too far and down too many rabbit holes, but ways to be sustainable, ways to be responsible, ways to be collaborative, all these different pieces, ways for the children to get to know each other. Because, a 5-year-old can learn so much from an 11-year-old, and absolutely vice versa. So those were some of the big stations that we did. But, if you're starting out and you've not done it before, find your play people, find your resources, start figuring out your administration's comfort level with play, find parents that are on board, find your resources, and then above all else, ask.
I was
The
going to say,
worst thing they can say is no.
Yeah. And then you're going to go back and say, okay, how can I approach this from a different angle if they say no?
What about this? Absolutely. Yeah. Just ask.
What if we tried this?
I mean, I was expecting a hard pass, like, oh, it's 2020, Whitney. Like, come on, absolutely not. And they said, yes, what do you need? And it was, music. It was so wonderful. And I fully appreciate how lucky I am to work at a school that supports play. And I've worked at schools that are not supportive of play. So you have to find what you can do. Get your toe in. Every little bit counts, because ultimately your kids win. And that's what it's all about.
And don't say what I can't do. Say what can I do? So change it from deficit-based thinking to asset-based thinking, and everybody gets much happier. Whitney, this has been wonderful. Don't go anywhere while I close this out. I'll be right back. So to learn more about IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.